Hello everyone again. Next, I would like to bring to the stage Vasileios Mingos, European Operations Director at Health-ISAC. His presentation will be about where do I start and how do I get the approval to do this. Vasileios, it's all yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, it's working. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today. Thanks to the presenters for all the informative presentations, and actually it was a great event so far. Let me allow me to do a quick presentation of myself and background. My name is Vasileios Mingos. I'm the European Operations Director of Health-ISAC, and I have previously built and led cybersecurity teams focusing on CTI, threat hunting, and deception. I enjoy solving puzzles, and I enjoy participating in a lot of CTFs. Now, today we'll talk about information sharing and how do we start and how do we get approval for this. First of all, let me explain a little bit what an ISAC is for those not familiar with the concept. So the ISAC stands for Information Sharing Analysis Centers. This was an initiative that started originally from the US after a presidential order for the critical infrastructure communities that they need to work together. So the idea of the Health-ISAC is to come together, empower sharing, and enable critical infrastructure communities to defend, detect, and prevent against cybersecurity and physical security events. And we do that with collection, analysis, and dissemination of actionable threat intelligence. That's the idea. So our main focus is to minimize the risk for the organizations. Now, there are two groups of ISACs for enabling cross-sector collaboration. One is in the US, it's called the National Council of ISACs, and we have a similar organization here in Europe, which is called the European Council of ISACs. That's pretty much groups of ISACs working together to enable cross-sector collaboration, as I said, but also partnership with the governments and the different certs. Okay? That's pretty much the idea of an ISAC and what we are doing. Specifically about Health-ISAC. So we are a global, non-profit, member-driven organization that empowers trust and actionable information exchange between healthcare organizations. So we focus only healthcare. For organizations in other industries, there are specific ISACs to each specific industry. So you can always refer to your industry when you go back. Now, our members come from all sectors of healthcare. They come from medical device manufacturers, health delivery organizations, pretty much a whole package, right? And some of the benefits are proprietary threat intelligence that we are creating and disseminating. Also, some automations that we offer. And on top of that, we host events, workshop trainings for our members, etc. But most importantly, they get access to the community. And the community is right there to enable information exchange and making sure that the organizations are more resilient and the sector becomes more resilient in general. So now let's focus on our main point, right? Now that we set the background, let's talk about information sharing best practices. Early in 2023, Health-ISAC collaborated with the Health Sector Coordinating Council, and we developed a white paper called Guidelines, Information Sharing Best Practices, that contains a lot of guidelines and best practices for information sharing in general. It touches also on some crucial questions that might arise, such as, what do you need to prepare for information sharing? Also, what information should you share? How do you share that information? And most importantly, how do you protect your sensitive information? But it also touches on some of the barriers to information sharing, right? There are definitely legal barriers right there, approvals that need to be taken. You need to have an internal sharing process and an external sharing process, the types of different information that can be shared. And in general, this type of paper, you can get it from either our website or the link is right there. It's a TLP white version, and it's publicly shared. You can take advantage of it even if you are not in the healthcare sector. So it's general on information sharing. And it's a great material that you can always refer to when you are trying to either create or develop your CTI, your cyber threat intelligence, or information sharing program. But what are some of the benefits and values of information sharing? Why would someone share, right? First of all, by sharing, we achieve improved security posture for our organizations. That's through shared situational awareness, right? If you're familiar with what a neighborhood watch program is, that's pretty much the same idea, right? By seeing what is happening around your neighbor, you're getting early warnings about attacks, and you're trying to figure out how you will effectively defend against those, and also what are some controls and countermeasures that you can actually put in your environment to protect against threats that are targeting your specific sector. Second, which is also extremely important, it's a crowdsourced cybersecurity expertise. Now, why this is important? Nowadays, we all have limited resources, and talent doesn't go so easy, right? With this way, by leveraging the community and the knowledge of the community and the experience, we can leverage the expertise of people from other organizations, and you are trying to approach problems in a collective way. That way, you are also building your career development, and you can achieve personal growth. Also, risk management is an ongoing and evolving process for everyone, right? And by having community and leveraging community trust and resilience, what we can do is we can enable rapid sharing of information for people to take advantage of. Lastly, innovation. We all need innovation nowadays, and by collaborating, we achieve innovations. The human race in general achieved great things by working together over time, so we can work together and bring our collective minds into trying to cooperate and compete against the threat actors. Now, let's start with what should someone share, right? We'll go through the basics. Some of you are already familiar with them, but we will start with the tactical intelligence. That's the form of intelligence which deals with the low-level technical details of an attack and attackers. Now, it comes in the forms of file hashes, malicious IP addresses, malicious URLs, and so on, right? It's the most widely and actively used form of intelligence which is available out there. The problem with this is that it's very time-consuming and very resource-intensive to use. Everybody is probably familiar with the pyramid of pain. Everybody who works in the cybersecurity career probably have seen that in their past lives. But in general, the concept of the pyramid of pain shows how easy it would be for a threat actor to change their attack techniques when they are being detected, right? So as you can see, this type of intelligence sits in the lower ends of the pyramid, which is quite easy for a threat actor to change those. Now, because of the value of this type of intelligence, the short-term value and the volume, it is imperative that we automate as much as we can through the ingestion process, analysis, and at the end of the day, sharing. We have to do it in an automated fashion in order to make effective use of our resources. Now, let's move to the second one, operational intelligence. Now, operational intelligence refers to the mid-level intelligence. It sits between the tactical and the strategic, and it is about mid-level cybersecurity experts that they will make decisions based on those. It focuses on analyzing attacks and attack patterns and identifying things in order to prevent those risks. Now, what we can complement IOCs, so indicators of compromise, with is what we call threat defender content. So the threat defender content is the concept of sharing CM rules, Yara rules, playbooks, and so on, right? This is really important because you are attacking complex attacks and problems through the collective knowledge of someone else and what they have done in order to analyze that problem. We are going back to using effective our resources without having to reinvent the wheel and reanalyzing something that someone else has done, right? It's also sharing proven techniques on how we can detect from those attacks. Lastly, strategic intelligence, right? So this is the high-level intelligence. It focuses on the who's and why's. It tries to identify the big picture about the threats and the threat landscape. It focuses on long-term decisions. Now, it helps senior decision makers analyze what is happening, how to protect against general threats. Some of the things that they can be influenced is corporate policies. We can form new ones or change our current ones based on the strategic intelligence that we are receiving. Or we can always influence the information technology or information security spending. But also, it can adjust the business plans completely. Some of the examples of strategic intelligence is, for example, analysis of the geopolitical landscape and how that translates to the cyber threat landscape. We have all the conflicts that are happening right now, so we can see how the threat landscapes shift around those events. Some others are, for example, guidance on regulations in generally privacy or any other. And, for example, predicted analysis on emerging threats in cybercrime and so on. Those will help you shape the future decisions that you are going to take. Now, these are not the only things that someone can share. We can share more. First of all, industry best practices are important for the resilience of one sector. Really important. By making successful peer sharing, we are enabling, so a peer can share different challenges they're facing, different implementations, experiences, and with that, we can achieve a more resilient infrastructure on our own and improving our security posture. Now, we are also getting the value of trying to solve a problem collectively as a team and not just an individual, which historically has been seen to be much more successful. Also, we can share incident details anonymously with the community, which will allow members to improve their defenses and generally prevent misinformation. Now, we can also get insights on widespread sector events, which is really important, and we can gather quickly the sector input. Generally, media is pushing forward to produce news as fast as they can, and sometimes they are creating havoc because of that. A recent example was the Change Healthcare incident in the United States, where media went out and they published very quickly that the United Health Group, which Change Healthcare belongs to, is actually facing an incident, which was not the case. That created panic in organizations trying to sever connections with a full group while they should have with just a part of the operation. Some of the best practices that our members are engaged with are, for example, how to secure emails, USB security, threat modeling. In general, you can see those vary very vastly, and there is a wide spectrum of activities, and that is because we don't just put ourselves on technical, tactical, operational, and strategic intelligence, but information sharing can be much more than that. Now, knowing what to share is very useful, but how do you get to share with things, right? First of all, there are legal protections out there. There are rules, laws, and regulations that actually prevent us from sharing as much as we can. But at the same time, there are many jurisdictions out there nowadays that they are providing liability protections if you share with the public sector or with your peer industry. Now, GDPR also allows for lawful sharing, right? And I have attached here an excellent paper by the Financial Services ISAC, which touches on threat information sharing and GDPR. So for those who are interested, this is also a TLP white version that they are offering. You can go ahead and grab that. Now, for everyone who has worked with their CTI development team or information sharing in general, you constantly, or you probably throughout that journey, you have worked with your legal department. And that cooperation does not always go smooth. That is because, of course, the legal department is doing their best interest to protect the organization. And by sharing, you might overshare or share something that you are not supposed to. But how we can alleviate that? We can partner with the internal legal counsel. We can work together. And by working together, we can explain the value. What is the scope of information sharing? How that will benefit the industry, and how by sharing, we will also enable others to share and consume intelligence coming. So it is imperative that you engage your legal department early in the process. Now, if that process already started, it's a good time to go back and engage them, right? Also, what has proven to be a good exercise is if you run sector-themed tabletop exercises, bring in your legal staff, and with bringing those in, they can see what is shared and how it is shared, and they can get accustomed to the idea of sharing and what you are trying to achieve with that. That will probably make it easier. Now, you can always dedicate resources into working with legal and try to influence them long-term into supporting that. But of course, we all know people working with law are a bit strict on that. Now, we have seen what to share, how to share, but whom do we share with, right? We can share with external partners. First of all, we can share with public entities, governmental organizations, like law enforcement. You can reach out if you're having an incident, for example, you can reach out to Europol and you can try and engage them, share what you have, gather their expertise. You can also share with regulators. Sometimes this is mandatory, and with the new regulations coming up, this seems to be the way forward. But of course, you can share with them in your own, with your own option. You can share with private entities like industry association, first ISACA, or for example, country research. If you are working with intelligence partners, you can work with them for third-party service providers to pretty much improve what they are seeing as well and help you in your journey. Or organizations which focus on information sharing, like Health-ISAC or other industry ISACs. And it's also really important that you share internally within your teams as well. It's really important. CTI teams, so cyber threat intelligence teams, incident response teams, information security, business continuity, everybody can benefit from information sharing because they get educated and well-informed. By the way, you can receive some examples of this also in the paper that we were referring to earlier. Those are all there. Now that we have seen everything, how do we prepare for effective sharing, right? As we said, we need to share, but we also need to know how to protect the information we are sharing. So it's important that we establish a governance model around it. Here is an example. For example, we identify the data type. We provide the description of the data type. Who would be the data owner for this, right? And then who the data can be shared with, and who is authorized to share that data. That can gatekeep all the information that, for example, should not go out there. Because the person that is always authorized to take that decision to share the data is right there. Also, you can create a governance body. It might seem intimidating. This can be your CTI team. They go back and they review the processes, the procedures. They see how this is all working. They catalog findings from external entities as well. And generally, you see what is coming up, and you are making sure that everything you receive is cataloged, everything you want to share with is cataloged, and take advantage of information sharing. Now let's check some case studies. I have two examples. One is, of course, this one is more on the tactical side that we were talking earlier, the most common one, right? This is a phishing email that was received by an organization during the COVID-19 pandemic, right? I have highlighted here some of the information that you can share with your community. For example, the subject, whom the email came from, what was the URL in the email, and also finally, what that URL and IP was that it redirected to, right? So this particular example is a legitimate but compromised domain. So this firm is actually legitimate that the email came from, but they reported they were hacked, and the threat actors used their infrastructure to push out phishing emails. And that landed in an O365 credential harvesting page, as we can see. So this particular email actually made it through the email scanning services, but the URL filter blocked it of the organization because it was registered for less than 30 days, and it was also uncategorized. So by sharing that, you enable others in the same industry to protect against a similar threat. Now, we talked about automation earlier, right? It's important when you are sharing to provide the full picture of what you are sharing. For example, if I was sharing with my industry just the who came that email from, it will be problematic because some organizations might work with that particular entity. So you need to provide the full picture, so what you share is actually important for the organization to block accordingly. So they would block the second stage, but not the first stage of the attack. And that's also how analysts would do it manually. You share the full information, so an analyst would gather that, they will read everything, and they will be ready for this. Now, the second one is a higher level one. It's a one on the operational and strategic type of intelligence. Back early in 2023, that was January 2023, Killnet, which is a pro-Russian hacktivist group, issued some distributed denial of service attacks against healthcare organizations. How this worked, Killmilk, which is an associate of Killnet, went to Telegram and they posted a target list. That target list focused exclusively on healthcare organizations. A Health-ISAC member organization picked that up, and through the Health-ISAC community, they shared it with the industry, and they shared all the different entities that they were going to be targeted in the following days. Now, what we also did is for organizations that are not members of ours, we reached out to them and we proactively informed them about this. We aim to strive to help the general sector and not just our members, right? So we reached out, we did that. Then the target list was actually posted on the 28th on Twitter for everybody to consume. And then 3 days later from the initial finding, the DDoS attack started. So here we can see an example of how an early, proactive type of information of an event can help an organization prepare. By sharing those mitigation techniques, those IOCs, those TTPs, organizations can actually proactively protect against something which is coming. And finally, the success of information sharing is built on trust. You need to trust who is talking to you, and you need to trust all the individuals that want to share sensitive information, right? And by doing that, personal relationships that you build with people are actually enabling a better info-sharing community. So go out there, get involved with your info-sharing community, participate in events, in person or online, attend conferences like this, like workshops, make sure that you engage, and in general, embrace information sharing. With that, I would like to thank everyone for your time. I am available here for questions. Please do connect with me. I'll be more than happy, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you. can do this. I don't know.
Do you have any question? Yes, we have. The mic is coming.
That was a nice one, but this is my question. My name is Victoria. The question is this. I'm learning that sharing is important, okay? But what is there a possibility of actually having like the threat actors infiltrating into legal communities or associations just to gather the same information? Like if you have the good and the bad mixing up, is it a possibility that you actually have them in pretending just to gather information to use against? I hope that's clear.
That's a great question. And actually, the way I can talk about ISACs and not private organizations and associations, because those are operating differently, right? But different ISACs operate more like a hub and spoke type of relationship. So information that is flowing in are going to our analysts, which they're validating and they're sanitizing the information. So such thing will not be able to happen, right? We are getting that input and then we are sanitizing that. And also before someone becoming a part of a community of an ISAC, there is a thorough check of what the organization is, what the goal is, why they wouldn't become a member. So it's not just anyone who just wants to be part is accepted, but rather there is gatekeeping to make sure that those things will not take place. Because same with AI, if you poison the information, the outcome will be poisoned. So we are trying to gatekeep it as much as we can and share the information only that is validated and 100% sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again.